This is Zach Gelb with the Sports Minute. Jared Goff is a good quarterback, but there's a difference in having a good QB and a great QB in the NFL. Goff had the number one overall seed, was squaring off against a rookie QB in Jaden Daniels, but it was Goff who looked like the rookie signal caller on Saturday evening, completing only 58% of his passes while tossing 3 interceptions and fumbling the ball once, as the Lions' season shockingly came to an end, losing by 14 points to the Commanders. I'm Zach Gelb.
What's up, football fans? BetMGM is giving you the chance to win up to $250,000 in bonus bets. It's all part of BetMGM's longest touchdown jackpot, where you could be able to split the grand prize with anyone else who bet on the longest touchdown of the week. It's easy to get started. Log into your BetMGM account today and opt into the promo. Then place an anytime touchdown wager of $10 or more on the player of your choice, up to 1 player per game. If your player scores the longest touchdown of the week, you'll win a share of the $250K. BetMGM lets you go all the way with the longest touchdown jackpot. Make your bets and join the fun with the sportsbook born in Vegas. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 years of age or older. Virginia only. BetMGM's longest touchdown jackpot subject to rules. See BetMGM.com. Existing customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Bonus bets are unrestricted reward bonus dollars that expire in 7 days.
Selection, value, finance options, and exceptional service. Why start anywhere else? It's all in one location at the Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile. And with straightforward pricing and inventory arriving daily, there's no reason to start anywhere else than the Motor Mile. Volume selling means volume pricing, and we've got the volume. The Used Car Superstore is your one stop for most makes and models. Cars, trucks, vans, SUVs, many have miles in the teens, remaining factory warranties, and some are even local one-owner vehicles. Shop over 900 used vehicles in stock now, more than any other dealer in the area. Sheeler owns the finance company, so getting approved for credit is easy on the Motor Mile. With financing options for every budget, you're a valued customer and not just a number on the Motor Mile. The Used Car Superstore on the Sheeler Motor Mile, your premier family-owned car dealer serving Southwest Virginia and surrounding areas for 50 years. I-81 exit 118C in Christiansburg. Call 866-SHEELER1. Always open at Sheeler.com. And we're excited to welcome Honda and Hyundai to the Motor Mile family. Why start anywhere else?
Allstate agent Donovan Howell is now serving Lynchburg. He lives and works here just like you. And with all kinds of local insurance advice, Donovan is someone you can count on to help you protect all that's good in your life. Donovan makes it easy to save on the quality protection you need, and he'll even help you do the switching and the paperwork for you.
Call or come by the Donovan Howell Allstate office in Windhurst today.
You're stepping into the fast lane on the VTRN Sports app, 93.3 FM and 1320 AM Lynchburg, or by asking Alexa or Google Home, open VTRN Sports Lynchburg. Now, take the fast lane through the topics that matter across the Commonwealth. This is the Fast Lane with Ed Lane.
You're going to be hard-pressed to find too many people that are more effusive of the Washington Commanders rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, than I am. He's the real deal. He's gotten them to this point. And they're 2 quarterbacks that are rookies who've made conference championship games.
3. You're forgetting like Sean Davis with the Bucks or something like that?
Sean King with the Bucks, yes. This is the first one of the bunch, though. And please pardon me.
Flacco and Ben Roethlisberger and the Sanchez.
This is the first time, though, that they've won it with him because of the rookie quarterback, not almost in spite of him. And that's the thing about Washington Commanders rookie quarterback Jaden Daniels. He's been fantastic. He's elevated a franchise that was in the dumps because of an ownership regime that was a quarter of a century of just eternal cesspool behavior. And they couldn't get anything established because not only was he a bad person, he also got involved in football operations and didn't know what he was doing.
Bad person. That's an understatement.
I'm being very generous.
There are a lot of parallels you can draw to this CJ Stroud, like the mess that the Texans were in with the Deshaun stuff and the dysfunction and that like half reverent dude that was apparently running the franchise.
Jack Easterby. And
then like CJ Stroud comes in and elevates the franchise. The only difference is in the divisional round, CJ Stroud had to play Lamar Jackson, and I would still take playoff Lamar over Jared Goff.
Well, yeah, I mean, we saw what Jared Goff was.
It's a good comparison. I think CJ Stroud in his rookie year is a really good comparison to what Daniels did, because like Houston was in a very similar situation to what Washington was in.
I think that's a reasonable situation. I think the skill set is better for Daniels. He runs when he needs to. I know there are people, and God bless him, but like Lewis, who don't think he should be sliding. I think that's what makes him great, is the fact that he knows how to protect his body.
As he gets older, he'll probably need to slide.
Well,
I think.
And he does that now compared to a lot of mobile quarterbacks. And I'm not putting Jalen Hurts in this category because Hurts is a running game weapon. Like, that's how they design the offense. It's totally different.
And Hurts slides probably. I'd not see Hurts, like the plays that Jalen Hurts have gotten on, it's more scrambles than it is him sliding. Like, you know, the play he got necessarily hurt on that you could listen to right here on VTR in Sports, it was a sack. It wasn't a run play.
But here's Jaden Daniels. He has helped the Washington Commanders. They have not punted at all or had turnovers in their last 5 games. Like, that's impressive. Both playoff games, no punts.
One punt.
One punt. Excuse me. 1 punt, no turnovers. Like, he is commanding, pun intended here, an offense that routinely will go over 80 yards and on drives that take up over 7 minutes of time of possession. Like, they're playing ball control, but he's piloting well enough and throwing the ball effectively off of that. He's got one real legitimate wide receiver. I know Diami Brown had a good game, but it's Terry McLaurin. He's making all these things happen. And he's the reason why Washington is in this spot. And it's his presence that's made a big deal for them. As you heard, including this second quarter touchdown pass that he threw to the incomparable, as some people call him, Terry McLaurin.
Scary Terry.
Scary Terry.
Aaron Glenn, since they lost Aiden Hutchinson in week 6, the defensive coordinator has blitzed a lot more. 38% blitz on the year. That's third most in the league. Eckler in the backfield now to the left of Daniels. First down and 10 at the 41. They'll swing the pass out to the left side. It's McLaurin. Breaks 2 tackles down the left sideline to the 40. McLaurin motoring to the 30. Inside the 20. Still on his feet at the 10. And he'll dive into the end zone for a Washington touchdown. Terry McLaurin takes it 59 yards. And the Commanders are back on top, 16-14.
And they would extend that out to 24-14 and then ultimately 31-14 heading into the locker room in Detroit. 31-21 heading into the locker room in Detroit. Jaden Daniels has guided them to this point. Like, he's the real deal. And I know it's 1 year, but this is not 1 year where they're making the conference championship game in spite of him. They're making it because of him. So he deserves the praise and the accolades that have been heaped upon him. However, as they would say, there is one idea out there that needs to be refuted.
This
is the dumbest idea.
This is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Look,
in sport, like, no, it's not. I've heard Colin Cowherd said, LeBron, step aside. We got Ben Simmons. Like, that was pretty stupid. And everything that Skip Bayless has probably said in his lifetime. But this was dumb.
Well,
in which you can tell by there was 2 quarterbacks in this conversation, their instant reaction.
Well, first and foremost, it happened on, and I rarely play sound bites from sports talk shows.
If you do like this show, you want to hear more sensible talk right before it, an hour before it, 7 a.m., you can listen to the morning warm-up with Trey Lyle.
Hey, look, at least on the morning warm-up, you and Ty and any guests that you might have,
we keep it 100.
Well, and you allow the other person to speak. Listen to this in the midst of one of these people saying Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFL in the playoffs that's still remaining.
Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC. End of sentence. D, what is it premature to say Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the NFC? End of sentence.
He's the best quarterback in these playoffs right now.
Hold what?
No.
Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in these playoffs.
He's playing the best right now of anybody.
He's playing the best, and I dare anyone to challenge me on that.
What? The best quarterback on the planet.
He's playing.
Number 50.
Jaden Daniels is playing the best. Jaden Daniels is playing the best of any quarterback in the playoffs right now.
Let Woody live. Let him live.
Come on, like what do we like? Listen.
All right. I gotta pause it because after he made that comment, like, we went on for about 20 seconds of just everybody talking over everybody else, which that is one of the things about these embrace debate shows. This one was Get Up on ESPN, but all of them, Fox Sports 1, ESPN, any of those types of shows.
I honestly think this is the best one because they implement like actual substance, like play breakdowns and stuff like that. Whereas like compared to all the ones on FS1 and then, because I don't trust anything that Emmanuel Acho does. Just read some couple recent headlines about him, but I got another FS1 joke in there, but everything with FS1, but in more terms of like First Take, I could just not stand, but like, at least like there are actual, that's why I watch it. I will admit I watch it. I watched this segment live and felt dumber as it was going on. Like if you watch the whole thing, Louis Riddick, who's like, let Woody live, actually, like as it goes on, realizes how dumb the argument is. Because one, Daniels is not the best quarterback in the NFC. I think it was I think I would say it's Matthew Stafford because of he's won a Super Bowl and he was really good yesterday. It's just Philadelphia was a better team and had the better football player in Saquon Barkley. But yeah, that was just. There's a guy.
All right.
Go ahead. I'll let you go.
See, here's my thing. I have been. I'm going to sound somewhat egotistical here, but please humor me in the fast lane. I've been the one of the two of us here in the fast lane.
You're I'm not a negative Daniels guy. I just was not a. I was not a Daniels guy coming out of the draft. So you're coming from a place like if we want to say this is the Jaden Daniels like hype train, like I'm still at the station. You're on board.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think he's really good and he deserves a lot of credit for this year.
Now, here's the thing. I have been as praiseworthy of him. He is the real deal. He has played better than any quarterback in the NFC playoffs to point. But to say he's the best quarterback in the playoffs remaining right now, if you want to give him over Jalen Hurts, who is banged up and honestly is an inconsistent passer, and when he had a great season in 2022, the passing game really propped him up. This year, it's running back Saquon Barkley. Both years, a great offensive line. This year, a dynamite defense. He's been benefited by his supporting cast. I 100% believe there's merit to that. This is an Eagles fan saying this about Jalen Hurts. But to say Jaden Daniels is better than, first of all, Josh Allen, who deservedly, if he wins the MVP, will get that because Buffalo got better by subtracting the talent, but also the challenges of Stephon Diggs.
And all they lost on defense and all the injuries they've had.
They've had a ton of them. They are a small defense and still managed to keep the big physical Baltimore rushing attack in check yesterday. So Josh Allen deserves it. He's made 2 conference championship games, by the way. But the dumbest part is that in 8 years in the NFL, 7 of which he has started, all 7 years, Patrick Mahomes has made the conference championship game. Regardless of what happens this year, he will still enter the offseason going to the Super Bowl over 50% of the time. And he has made of his Super Bowl appearances a 3-1 record. Patrick Mahomes is Jaden Daniels could win the Super Bowl this year. He could win the Super Bowl next year, and he still will not be as accomplished or better than Patrick Mahomes.
He is still 2 wins. Like people are comparing this Daniels season to Mahomes' first season, which I think is not fair. Like Mahomes threw for 5,000 yards and 55 touchdowns and was basically an offsides call away from beating Tom Brady in the AFC Championship game. Like even if Daniels gets to the Super Bowl, you're not beating Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. Like I think I would sum this argument up is, and this is not a discredit to Daniels, it's just the quarterbacks that he's in and how I value those top 2 especially. You can make a better argument that Jaden Daniels is 4th just because he's a rookie quarterback. Simply because he's a rookie quarterback. And the other 3 guys have either been to a Super Bowl where they've played well in the Super Bowl, both Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, or they were, literally 13 seconds away from being in a Super Bowl. Even though that was a divisional round game, I have a lot of confidence that Bills team would have beat Tennessee and gone on to the Super Bowl. And Josh Allen has the best touchdown interception ratio in the history of the playoffs. And it's not like it's like 5-1. It's 24 to like 10 or 24 to like 2, I think, which is ridiculous. So it's not a discredit to Daniels. It's just the other 3 guys have proven it for 3 seasons now. Like you talk about Jalen Hurts. Like the one thing you say about Jalen Hurts is he wins football games. Like this is his 4th straight year in the playoffs, and now half of them have been to the NFC Championship game. Like that's a credit to him and the structure in Philadelphia. Like if you're a Washington fan, you would take the last 4 years of Jalen Hurts, I think. Like you would. If you were like Jaden, this is 2022 Hurts for Jaden Daniels, and the play dips the next couple of years, but you're still a playoff team and a fringe Super Bowl contender.
Speaking of shots that didn't land, and we'll pivot subjects here in the fast lane. Off the Washington Commanders, keep your thoughts coming. Fast lane, Ed Lane.
I will add this. I do want to thank former Patrick Henry Patriot, same high school as the GOAT Evan Hughes, Damian Woody, with that fire take to deflect all this trolling ability you could have put upon me.
Oh, I've got plenty of that'll come, and it is kind of comical because Trey is like the last person to get on the Jaden Daniels bandwagon. He is holding out hope beyond hope. Now he's going an entirely different angle when it comes to the NFL coaching carousel. More on that in the fast.
Yes, we're back. I'm back, baby.
But speaking of shots that did not land, and I got plenty of them in at Trey Lyle VT when I was tweeting at him over the weekend. Fast Lane, Ed Lane, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Liberty went through a good chunk of the second half with shots not going in against New Mexico State. But despite starting the half 1 out of 14, ending that drought 3 of 18, including 0 of 11 in one of those stretches, they found a way to win. Like Liberty was continuing to miss buckets. And Bryson Gordon, newsadvance.com, John Manson, a seaofred.com, will join us around 5:45 in the middle of covering the Commonwealth. Both of them understood, and we all looked at each other and going, this is not that bad for Liberty considering they're hanging in the game despite being as porous as they were. And Richie McKay, a rather humorous take, first and foremost, on what happened.
I think our group wants to, they're very conscientious young people, and they want to do well, especially in front of our fans. And love it when we get a packed house or that fan base, Flames Nation, is engaged because we're tough out. But we also removed the lid that was on the rim, and that was probably pretty healthy for us.
Oh, the Flames Nation part. Oh, any nation. Drives me nuts. But Liberty won 68-60. They hung in there, and they grinded this type of game away. You're going to need to shoot better than 1 of 14, 3 of 18, and you'll need to avoid 0 of 11 stretches. But there are a couple of things with regards to that. First of all, it's not that you want to win every game in Tony Bennett fashion, but Virginia was a blueprint for Richie McKay, has ties to that program, as we've all known.
This was a very Tony Bennett-like game.
It very much was, including, as Katie Matheny noted afterwards, when the shots weren't going, the players having enough buy-in to rely on the defense.
We rely on our defense. We know what we're capable of on the offensive side. We got tons of shooters. We were getting great looks. They just weren't falling, and that's why we rely on our defense. Xander hit a couple big shots to get us going, and Colin. When I see Colin picking up full court, that's when I know something's going on mentally. He's ready to get something going. So that kind of turned us up a little too.
It did. I mean, you could see Liberty's defense keeping them in the game, and it spurred a level of aggressiveness, and it got them to the point where, as Richie McKay noted, when all hell breaks loose, first and foremost, just get aggressive, which starts on the defensive end.
You guys know this by now. Like, Taylor can really score. And I thought Javon was he's never not had some really good scoring nights. I think Florida Atlantic, he had 1 point in, what was our last game? UTEP, he had 3. And that's, once he comes out of it and gets in his aggressive mode, we'll be even that much more difficult to guard because he's such a conscientious kid and he doesn't want to let anyone down. We have a room full of those guys. So I think there's room for us to grow, but pleased with obviously tonight.
Aggressive. And it's a mindset thing for Liberty that you continue to preach. And sometimes it's to a fault in terms of, be aggressive. Don't be afraid. And it doesn't get better. But the one thing that Liberty deserves credit for, and there are times where, I think you can make a reasonable case where it's justifiable pointing some blame at Richie McKay as the head coach of Liberty. Free throws, in an example, he's overly defensive of that, and I get it. That's his job as the coach, but that's the hard thing for me to ever understand. I can practice free throws and get better at them. If you do well in practice but not in the game, at some point it's either mental or something's going amiss. But the flip side is they're not so bound by let's keep jacking up threes or shooting jump shots if they're not going in. I think Richie McKay deserves a lot of praise, a lot, for the fact that he and Liberty, when things aren't going in, they buckle down with aggressive defense. That starts from the top down with the mindset of this program. And the other is allow that to lead to some easy buckets in transition. And we saw a lot of this with backdoor cuts. Talon Peter kind of snapped that slump when he had a backdoor cut and a reverse layup. But we saw others for Kata Matheny and Colin Porter, smaller guards for Liberty, but they're getting aggressive, driving to the rim. And in this case, they draw the foul, and it all stems from that aggressive mindset.
When we do get the floor space the right way and we get downhill a little bit, we've got a really good chance for something good to happen offensively. I think our guys just stayed with it, and we were hard to play against defensively then, especially at the end. At the end of the game, we were a little harder to play against.
Harder to play against defensively. Absolutely. Liberty, they were not very easy because they started getting aggressive. They started moving to the bucket, and there was a lot of motion, which was big for them. And ultimately, as Kata Matheny mentioned afterwards, you tie all that together and help them snap a loss. Again, another one of those disappointing losses on the last-second jumper by UTEP on Thursday night. They grinded it out and found a way to win.
Yeah, needed that one. Feels really good. Always want to protect home court, so last game kind of obviously sucked. But New Mexico State's a really good team, top of the conference, and we knew going into Conference USA, like anybody can beat anybody. It's just how the league is. It's a grind. And man, our defense, we weren't hitting a lot of shots. I don't know if it was fatigue or, but that's why we play defense like that, so we can win games through our defense. That's what happened tonight.
Start by playing good defense and then get aggressive and driving to the rim. That's one of my big things that, again, rankles my feathers is when the shots aren't going, sometimes you just need to snap out of it, and you can still take some threes here or there. But if you continue to not go, don't settle for a scoring drought at some point. And granted, Liberty, it was 1 of 14 and 3 of 18. But at some point, just start driving to the rim. And I know Liberty's a very bad free throw shooting team, but if you get shots to go in, you can see the ball go in. That old analogy of just seeing it go in the hole can make a world of a difference.
I was going to add the fact that they had to get this win against New Mexico State, because if they lost to UTEP and New Mexico State, especially in the way they lost to UTEP in heartbreaking fashion, they've had basically 2 heartbreaking losses in conference play and they've been able to bounce back well. But especially against New Mexico State, who coming into the game was the top team in the conference. And if you're Liberty, your goal is a top 2 seed. It's just an easier way to get ultimately your goal of winning the Conference USA tournament. This was I said this kind of with Virginia. I've said this with Virginia Tech, and I said this with Liberty when I asked Bryson on was it Friday on the morning warm-up. Like, it wasn't a must-win game, but it was a kind of had-to-have game to get that win against New Mexico State. And the way they did it, it's going to battle test them because they're going to be in games like that, especially against a UTEP, a New Mexico State, a Western Kentucky, the top teams in the conference later on, especially in the conference tournament. And if they can start pulling these out, that they're going to feel really good about it.
Absolutely. They are. And Liberty's playing better. They're finding ways to win. And it's not perfect, but you got a couple months left to get this thing right before Conference USA tournament begins. Meanwhile, when we return, we'll get it right. We'll give you 5 quick nuggets you need to know before covering the Commonwealth when the Fast Lane returns after this. From interest rates to everyone's personal credit history and background, everybody's in a different spot. At Feller Chevrolet, they understand that. It's why Greg Walker spoke with us and shared how Feller Chevrolet can work with you.
Well, we have multiple lenders, so everybody's different in personality and in their credit equity of what they put into a vehicle. So the different lenders have different areas that they like to go after, and we know which ones to use for the different individuals to get them the best payments possible terms that they need. As far as interest rates, everybody is saying, oh my goodness, they're getting so high. But if you look historically, we're really right in a rate area that traditionally for housing and cars is very competitive. We've just been so spoiled.
At Feller Chevrolet, they work with people from diverse credit backgrounds to get the right car for their needs. Stop by and see them, Main Street in Alta Vista, and visit fellersdirect.com.
We're here with Colt from We Fix Stupid Computers. Colt, to go along with your residential or individual walk-in services that you offer, you also do a lot of business IT support. How about you discuss that and what specifically do you do to help businesses in the area?
We see a lot of that. Small to medium-sized businesses, they still have their IT projects. They still need resources to help them within their office and for remote users. And so we'll step in and fill in the gap where we do a lot of projects for them, help them manage their resources, their budgets, and get their technology under control.
Colt, how can these people reach out to you to assess their IT needs?
Call us. Our number is 434-525-8590. Our website, wefixstupidcomputers.com. We're on Facebook. And our office is here locally, 14690 Forest Road, right next to Scott's Cabinet on 221.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
Back to the Fast Lane, and Trey Lyle, as many punches as he took from me over the weekend, he at least gets to deliver some in the direction of Jacksonville, Florida. What do we mean? Find out now.
It's time for Fast Five at 5-ish. 5-ish minutes on 5 relevant topics done around 5 p.m.-ish. Ish, because our counting skills are kinda ish. Let's start with number 5.
I'm not the one who believes that Caleb Williams was the best quarterback in the most recent draft, although, I mean, hey, things can change. Last year, C.J. Stroud was definitively better than Bryce Young. Now, he is better and more accomplished than Bryce Young, but Young does not look like a total bust. Could we get to next year and Jaden Daniels looks better, but Caleb Williams looks viable? Trey is banking on that based on the news that came down today.
Let's go! Ben Johnson's the head coach.
He leaves the Detroit Lions. When they said last year, you never know if you'll get back, now it's more true than ever because Detroit's probably going to lose their defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, to either the Saints or the Jets.
I think it's going to be the Jets.
They've lost their offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, who picked the Chicago Bears and Caleb Williams over the no quarterback hope because they're not picking early in the draft. And they don't have
early enough. They're picking like 4th, so.
The Las Vegas Raiders. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, look, if you're telling me just on the surface, Caleb Williams or Trevor Lawrence, I'd take Trevor Lawrence because I don't think he has the same level of baggage that you have to deal with Caleb Williams. The attitude, the I want equity even though I've accomplished nothing.
But that's not true. That was not a true story.
There was some nuggets to that.
But did anyone credible actually report that?
I've heard that from a couple of sources, but
I don't believe that. So.
Well, we can agree to disagree, but the point of the matter is it doesn't matter.
People don't like him because he paints his fingernails. Let's be real here.
As bad as it is.
Can I read the report?
To deal with Kevin Warren of the Chicago Bears, there may be one person that you would more look to avoid, and that is your guy down in Jacksonville, Trey, the con man.
In the words of Diana Rossini, the Jacksonville Jaguars were also interested in Ben Johnson, but I'm told the setup wasn't in line with what he was looking for in his first head coaching job. Now, Ed, you're right. I'm also a Trevor Lawrence guy. I still believe in Trevor Lawrence. I think, what do you think by setup you mean?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe the guy who's in charge and somehow has the ear of the owner.
Yes.
Despite having no
somehow, I think Ryan Poles has actually done a pretty decent job. Look at the Bryce Young trade, for example. I really just think they had seriously incompetent coaching. The Bears did. I thought about this actually on my ride back here today to the station. I was like, if you switch Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels, because Cliff knew Caleb's skill set so well, I'm not saying they would get to the NFC Championship game because I think there was a lot of everything had to go perfectly for Washington this year to get to where they're at. I think you would agree with that. But I think he could replicate some of the success that Jaden Daniels had. And I think Jaden Daniels would have had similar struggles than Caleb Williams did because of the coaching staff was just so bad.
Yeah, I mean, Washington has caught a lot of breaks. The quarterback is a big part of that. He's as gifted as anybody, but they benefited from all the free agent signings from Dan Quinn. He knew the right guys to bring over from Dallas. Clearly, the Cowboys were gutted while the Commanders basically literally took from one rival to build their own roster up, which is crazy to think about.
That is funny.
I mean, it kind of is. But it's hard to hit on free agency and the offseason moves every year. And, I mean, the Commanders will be dealing with it like a lot of others. The benefit is Jaden Daniels is on that rookie contract for the next 3 to 4 years when you factor in that franchise tags and extensions will come soon, but the kick in of that will be down the road. They can really build something around it. That's for later. Meanwhile, what will happen before then is that the NFL will get to an 18th game because Roger Goodell has now come out in the last week and said adding an 18th game is the, quote, next logical step, end quote. And nobody's surprised by this. He's been seeding this for a while. And the concept that they would just take away another preseason matchup down to 2 preseason games. Look, the early portion of the year is already the preseason, but if you can couch it as regular season and they technically count in the standings, then you get more out of it than you would otherwise. That is a big part of the reason why the NFL is going this route. And of course, ultimately, it's because it will bring them more
dollar bills, y'all,
for a way to find more revenue and more games. Number 3, Jim Phillips has come out and said the ACC could consider giving its regular season champion a bye to the ACC championship game and have the teams that finish second or third in the league standings play in the ACC championship game itself and a bye to the playoffs. It's not a bad way to game the system to ensure the best team over the regular season gets into the playoffs. Is he also possibly letting the cat out of the bag? That at some point, we're going to see a scenario where the Big Ten is guaranteed 3, the SEC is guaranteed 3, the Big 12 and the ACC are guaranteed 2 teams into the college football playoff, and then everybody else battles for at-large spots, which likely will consist of Notre Dame, the highest finishing group of 5, and then whoever is good from the SEC and the Big Ten, especially when they expand the playoffs. That's probably the direction we're going. That's probably the bigger picture takeaway, but it's not a bad idea for Jim Phillips to ensure that your biggest brands, which are likely the ones to win the regular season, are guaranteed a spot in the playoffs.
Number 2.
Speaking of the ACC, we'll start with Virginia. Men's basketball, they got killed by Louisville again. What a backdoor cover. That was a 15-point spread. It was really about a 20-point game until Louisville let off the gas and Virginia cuts it and only loses by 14. That was not a 14-point game in the sense that it was a 10-point game that became 14. It was a 20-point blowout that Louisville let off the gas. I mean, for Virginia, they just are what they are right now under Ron Sanchez. I think he's a good basketball mind. He's dealt nearly an impossible hand with the roster. More on that later, but I don't think he can work miracles the way Tony Bennett was able to work miracles with an underfunded athletic program, and more on that later this week, which should make you appreciate Tony Bennett, maybe go a little light on Ron Sanchez, but also acknowledge that for him or anyone else to succeed, you're going to have to invest more.
Dollar bills, y'all.
Which I do think will come because Liberty or Virginia, they're already doing it at other programs. Meanwhile, the women, they fell at NC State, 21st ranked Wolfpack, 73-68. Virginia, they've got to find a way to get over the hump. They did against Virginia Tech on Thursday and then fell on the road at NC State. There will be more opportunities in ACC play, but right now that kind of feels like where things are with Coach Mox. They're in a lot of these games. They're playing well enough to give themselves a chance, but they've got to find a way to start winning, especially because they didn't do a lot in non-conference play to give themselves the resume, the Virginia Lady Cavaliers, to be an at-large team, meaning they've got to make hay while the sun shines, and it's starting to set a little bit earlier.
Number 1.
Virginia Tech men's basketball over the weekend. I thought it was going to be tough to get both home games against NC State and Wake Forest, and Wake is the better team than NC State. They've got a better player in Hunter Salas. They may need to do a little more damage in the ACC, but when you think of the 3 ACC men's teams that are going to the tournament, Duke, Clemson, and Louisville will be in. The other ones that might have a chance to play their way in, I think there are really only 2 of them. Pitt, which I think is on the wrong side now, and Wake Forest as well.
Maybe SMU.
Maybe SMU as well, who, I mean, by the way, Miami. Oh my gosh, that team is already checked out.
Worst team in the ACC. As I said that after they lost to Virginia Tech.
You know, it's more pronounced now, though, and Virginia will have a chance to beat Miami. At least Virginia's trying hard and playing hard. Miami, they clearly look like they've already taken the checks to the bank and could care less. Meanwhile, the Virginia Tech Lady Hokies, good win on Liz Kitley Day. It's a nice bounce back spot. She's been very iconic for them. The cool thing was, did you see the lines after the game to get her autograph?
2 hours. I mentioned it this morning.
The impact that she has had on that program is impressive and clearly worth mentioning and discussing in the second guest of covering the Commonwealth, when we return here in the Fast Lane on the VTR and Sports app and 93.3 FM.
It's time for the annual Volkswagen Sign and Drive event going on now at Terry Volkswagen. During this event, Volkswagen throws out the best deals of the year. For example, right now you can lease a new 2024 Volkswagen Tiguan Wolfsburg Edition for only $389 per month, or a new VW Taos for only $299 a month. That's zero down, folks. Just sign and drive. with approved credit. But don't wait, because these deals don't come along often. Come see us today at Terry Volkswagen, where we say you'll love our cars.
Hi, I'm Chuck from Aquatrek Adventures in Salem. The Virginia Talk Radio Network and InsaneRadioDeals.com have helped our company grow by sharing our company's message throughout Central and Southside Virginia. The gift cards and experiences sold on InsaneRadioDeals.com have brought us many new customers. If you're a business that wants to grow with a message that resonates and gets results, I highly recommend InsaneRadioDeals.com and the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Simply put, it works.
When shopping for auto liability insurance, it's wise to consider the best policy, not the cheapest. Hi, I'm Randy Trost with Trost Law. It's crucial to have more than the minimum insurance on your auto liability policy. This protects you if you injure someone or if someone without proper insurance hurts you. Having the right policy ensures you have sufficient underinsured coverage to take care of you and your family. To learn more how we can help you navigate these challenges, visit us at trostlaw.com. That's trostlaw.com.
Experience the charm of the Dan River District at Ballad Brewing. Join us for weekly events from our 5,000 square foot tap room. Fun like trivia, bingo, and live music plus 20 taps. And visit Ballad Brewing on Facebook for updated info like special events. At Three Roads Brewing, we're a fabric of historic downtown Lynchburg. We brew community. Each month, Three Roads Brewing partners with a local nonprofit. Enjoy weekly events like trivia, bingo, and live music while sipping from one of our 20 taps. All to join Three Roads Brewing in supporting Lynchburg.
Step into the fast lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the fast lane.
We thought we had it rough over in
Go home to
Bel Air, LA, Liberty Arena this past Saturday. But somebody who might have had it just as rough joins us right now to start covering the Commonwealth.
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with the JMU Dukes.
Shane Metlin of the Harrisonburg Daily News Record with us here in the fast lane. Shane, you went through your own scoring droughts, particularly in the 58-50 loss against Appalachian State this past Saturday. Well, have you survived the eyesore of an offensive performance from the Dukes?
Yeah, I got through it. I think I probably had an easier time of it than some of the people around there. But, yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of scoring, especially in the first half of that one. There were some long stretches without much offense going on.
No doubt about it. Now the Dukes look to bounce back on Wednesday at Old Dominion, the Royal Rumble between the Dukes and the Monarchs. More on that in a moment, though. How much of a boost, though, for JMU have they gotten from the fact that they got that win against Marshall, at least something on which to fall back despite now being swept in the season series against the App State Mountaineers?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's even as much of a boost as just like they needed. I mean, if they'd have lost 4 straight, then I think, the mentality could have, really went downhill. They salvaged something by getting that one against Marshall. And, presumably the schedule gets a little bit easier now. They've played 4 games against some of the top teams in the Sun Belt already. But, ODU's been kind of a mystery. Sometimes they look really good. Sometimes they don't. So not necessarily anything easy coming up, but you do have to wonder if maybe they could salvage something after splitting the weekend at least.
Yeah, that's the big thing as they head down to Norfolk for the Royal Rumble. Inconsistency has been an issue. Preston Spradlin mentioned that we're at the point now in the year where the new roster pieces, it's no longer an excuse for that to be the case. How crucial is it for JMU to get a win at Old Dominion this Wednesday?
I think it's pretty crucial because, I mean, really these are 2 of your best chances to get wins on the roads coming up this week. If you look at whether it be net rankings, Ken Palm, even the standings, like it's just these are games that could be pretty winnable on the road, as opposed to, they've played some decent teams on the road so far this year. Most of the teams they play in non-conference are challenging for their conference titles. So there's not to say it's excusable to not have a road win at this point, but you can kind of see why. But they need to get one here coming up, and they've dominated this rivalry recently, and you don't really want to give that up, especially since you're having some success establishing yourself in state, whether it be recruiting, fans, everything. You want to keep that going against an in-state team.
And the other one of note, and this is not directly JMU related, but kind of indirectly, they played Marshall on Thursday, and they played them a regular season finale in Harrisonburg for football. Marshall fined $100,000 by the Sun Belt Conference for opting out of that Independence Bowl against Army. Is that enough to deter a team in Marshall's situation or anybody in the conference from doing the same thing if they're in as perilous a spot as the Herd?
I think that's what you hope for if you're the Sun Belt office, because one thing Keith Gill, the commissioner of the Sun Belt, has kind of made a priority in the last few years is finding more and better bowl tie-ins for the Sun Belt. And that doesn't help to have a team drop out of like one of the best games they had going for their bowl tie-ins. It didn't help. You could tell from the press release they sent out, a very apologetic tone from the Sun Belt that happened. And, $100,000 is not a huge number necessarily money-wise when it comes to college sports, but hopefully it is a deterrent going forward. And, maybe if it's going to cost you $100,000, I said this on the Sun Belt podcast yesterday, but, if it's going to be $100,000, maybe then you try to spend that money as encouragement for some of your players to stick around through the bowl game instead, because you could essentially pay them to play in the bowl game if you're going to be spending $100,000 one way or the other. Like maybe that will change the tide going forward, because you're going to have guys transfer, you're going to have people leave and turnover, but you want to be able to play those games and bring in money for the conference.
It's actually kind of amusing that that's where we are in college sports. Shane_DNR online is where we are finding his work, as well as DNRonline.com. Shane_DNR sports, excuse me. Shane, great to be speaking with you. Thank you very much for your time in the fast lane. Always good to catch up.
All right, thanks.
Now to the Virginia Tech Hokies.
With David Cunningham of TechSideline.com. David, what a day yesterday in Blacksburg. Big picture, the Liz Kitley jersey retirement, 2+ hours of wait time. Did you expect it to be that long for Virginia Tech faithful to come out and seek her autograph and bid their thanks to one of the three pieces that is still tied to Virginia Tech from that run that ended last year?
Yeah, Ed, honestly, I'm not surprised by that at all. I think it's pretty, it kind of shows you who Elizabeth Kitley is, that she can kind of just walk back in the castle, kind of like a one night only thing, and the place sells out kind of in the snap of the fingers. That's how much she is adored. She, in some ways, Ed, might be one of the best faces Virginia Tech, not just athletics, but the university has ever had. The way she goes about her business, she's all about the people and all about the community. And I wrote about this yesterday. She, a couple of years ago, once told me that she will stay and sign every single autograph every single time she plays after games, because she wants there to be investment from the fans and wants to keep them coming back, whether they're young and old, or boys or girls. I thought the funniest part of yesterday was after the whole jersey retirement thing. In the middle of her speech at midcourt, she's talking about the investment in the current team, deflecting, of course, and making it about her, because that's how humble she is. And that's one of the reasons why people love her so much and adore her so much, because, yes, she was a fantastic basketball player. And I think what she did for the game is pretty it transcends a lot of things we haven't really seen from college bigs. But at the same time, I think what she did away from the court was even more special. And she's connected with this community, and she stayed and signed autographs for 2 hours after the game yesterday. That was a ridiculously long line. And she stayed and signed every one of them. And that's just who she is. She gives back to the community, and Virginia Tech is lucky to have her. And I wrote yesterday, I think it's a perfect match, she for the Virginia Tech community. And it was really cool, honestly. She deserved that moment. She deserved that day yesterday. And I think, maybe not as much of the jersey going out up in the rafters, but getting a chance to interact with the fans one last time, especially with how her career at Virginia Tech ended with her injury. Nobody wants to go through something like that. And I think it was a great day for her and a happy day for her to be able to be recognized, but also get a chance to interact with all the fans who have loved her so much and poured so much into her over the years.
Is there an added appreciation for her, given that, and it's just how the cracker crumbled, the cookie crumbled, whatever it is. She never had a chance to go with Kenny Brooks to Kentucky, whereas Georgia Amore did. And I would imagine that's going to sour a lot of people on what she did for Virginia Tech, just because when she gets drafted in the WNBA, it will not be like Liz Kitley, where it's Liz Kitley, Virginia Tech. It'll be Georgia Amore, University of Kentucky.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the way the transfer portal is nowadays. And coaches or players following their coaches. Who's to say if Elizabeth Kitley had an extra year of eligibility that she would not have followed Kenny Brooks on her own? We can't say that. We can't speculate on that because, it's all hypothetical because she doesn't and didn't. But at the same time, yeah, I think it means a lot and meant a lot for the Virginia Tech fans to have somebody come back. Because I think the Hokies have honestly, it's been a long 10 months-ish since the coaching change, right? And they want to support this team. And I think, they're averaging over 5,000 fans per game before yesterday. I think they're doing a pretty good job supporting the team in its first year under Megan Duffy, which picked up a big win yesterday. But to have an icon come back like that, somebody who is loyal and kind of exhibits everything Virginia Tech fans maybe see in themselves and want people who represent their university to be. And even not just Virginia Tech, but the Southwest Virginia community. And as she mentioned yesterday, her high school jersey was retired on Friday night in Greensboro, right? She represents so many communities and is so loyal to them and has always given back. And I think that is something that resonates. And I think when you have people who leave and go other places and move on with their life, but you have somebody who comes back and continues to make time for you, I think that is what makes it special. Nothing against those who left, but I think in some ways it honestly might have helped make yesterday more special, at least for the fans, because I think they've kind of been missing that a little bit, right? It's probably a little bit different and weird for them. So many new faces on this team. Yes, some players back from last season, but a lot of them, they don't really have a lot of connections with. And then in walks Elizabeth Kitley, who they beloved for so long. And it's an easy connection. You kind of just pick right up where they left off. And it was awesome yesterday just to get a chance to interact with her and to celebrate her day. And I know all the fans had a great time.
A lot of them did. And the article's up, Elizabeth Kitley, a perfect match for the Virginia Tech community, written by our current guest, David Cunningham, at his site, techsideline.com, where he and his colleagues all write. For the weekend itself for Virginia Tech, where do you stand right now for the women's program? They lost to Virginia, but they bounced back on Liz Kitley Day. Was it the emotion of that day that carried them, or is this program starting to find its identity in the first year under Megan Duffy?
I think it's the latter, Ed. I think this program's starting to find itself. Now, what I will say is I was genuinely surprised a little bit at how the Hokies did not have a response against Virginia. Now, that's a Cavaliers team that is steadily improving and had won 2 or 3 in a row coming into that game. But Megan Duffy called timeout twice in that third quarter. And Virginia Tech has been a good team this year that has responded well out of timeouts, and Hokies didn't. They didn't do much after the first one, and then immediately after the second one, they turned the ball over. I just don't think it was their night for whatever reason. But I think it shows their resolve in how they bounced back on Sunday against a really good Louisville team that had won 7 straight games. And granted, yes, when you've got Elizabeth Kitley in-house and you got a sold-out crowd, that's going to lift you a little bit. But at the same time, I thought Tech was the better team for 40 minutes. It wasn't really a question. Louisville made a great push late, and that is a really, really talented Cardinals team. But at the same time, that's twice now Virginia Tech has showed in the last 2 weeks or so that it can really compete with teams that are about top 25 caliber. Beat Georgia Tech on the road, a top 15 win, and you beat Louisville here at home, that's a win against a team that was receiving votes in the AP poll. So the Hokies are, I think, finding something. Can they keep it going? I'm interested to see. They're at Pitt, and then they've got an interesting two-game stretch, huge two-game stretch. NC State on the road, Notre Dame at home. Arguably, you could say two of the best three or two of the best two teams in the conference. But I think the Hokies are kind of finding something right now. I'm curious to see how it continues to evolve and develop, because this group, I think, has the potential to do something really unique, even though it is year one. But consistency is going to be key, because they can't afford to drop many more games like that Virginia one. That's a Q4 loss, I believe, as it currently stands. So that is a tough one. But, of course, you kind of go back up +1 with the Louisville win. So it's a give and a take, and if they can get more than they give, I think they'll be in an okay position going forward.
David Cunningham, The Real Dick Hunter, Twitter and Instagram and TechSideline.com. David, good to chat with you again. Appreciative of your perspective.
Thanks, Ed. Talk to you soon.
Now to Liberty Flames.
John Manson from SeaofRed.com with us here in the Fast Lane. John, the men's basketball team, you were there with us on Saturday. How impressed were you with the Liberty defense? Did they buckle down and carry the Flames through that wretched 1-14 or 3-18 start to the second half as far as shooting?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of been the forte for Liberty under Richie McKay, and obviously coming down from Charlottesville 10 years ago now and learning that pack line, as he said so many times. He got a master's degree in the pack line defense, and that's what Liberty's had to do so many times, and we certainly saw that on Saturday, and it was a much-needed win for the Flames, right? I mean, you're at 2-3 right there, and already lost 2-3 in conference play, and already lost 2 games at home on your home floor, and playing a New Mexico State team who was unbeaten in conference play at the time, and you're staring 3 straight road games in the face. You don't want to drop that and go to 2-4 with 3 straight on the road. So led in part, mainly by that defense, the Flames were able to get the stops needed and held the Aggies scoreless for about 5 minutes there down in crunch time. And the offense, which was unable to get going against a New Mexico State team, that defense is one of the best in Conference USA. And they as many teams have been doing in league play, running Liberty off the 3-point line and forcing the Flames to attack the basket and play in the paint. And, Caden Matheny finally found his way after being held scoreless through the good portion of the game, the entire first half, and got to the bucket and got a couple of finishes at the rim there in the final couple of minutes for Liberty to get some separation. But it was definitely a much needed win for the Flames.
Nobody's going to mistake this free throw shooting from Liberty to be one of the best in the country, but they stayed aggressive driving to the rim in spite of ultimately finishing 17 of 26 from the charity stripe amidst their well-documented free throw challenges to this point. What does it say about the Flames that the shots weren't going in, they were willing to drive to the bucket, and even though with the free throws not going in, it took a while, they grinded it out when you combine that with defense, and the Flames could win ugly, but still get a much-needed victory?
Yeah, I think one of the keys to the free throw shooting discrepancies and failures, really, so many times throughout the season is who's getting to the line. I mean, so many times it's been Zach Cleveland or an Owen Aquino, who both are shooting around 50%. And you're kind of thankful if you're a Liberty fan if they make 1 out of 2 every time they go. But those are the guys that get to the line the bulk majority of the time. And Javon Mothmore, transfer from Cedarville, he shot nearly 80% or right at 80% throughout his career at Cedarville. And then he transfers to Liberty and he gets the free throw bugaboo, and he's in the 50% shooting so far this season. So you saw Talon Peter go 5 for 5 in a game earlier this season. Colin Porter also got to the line, and he was aggressive all night Saturday against New Mexico State. And if you can get him and Talon and also Caden Matheny as your primary guys going to the free throw line, I think you'll feel a lot more comfortable, even though we've seen Matheny miss, 1 out of 2 here and there, including Saturday night. But those are the guys, they're 80% free throw shooters in their career, and those are the guys you want at the line. But yeah, typically it's been Zach Cleveland or Owen Aquino getting to the line, and those are not the guys you want. But yeah, it does, to your point, it does speak to a lot to their ability to stay aggressive and take what the defense gives them too, right? That's something Coach McKay talks about a lot is take what the defense gives them. And as we saw, Liberty only made three pointers on the night. First time they've made that few 3-pointers in a win since I think it was 2018 against North Florida.
It's amazing to see what Liberty did and the way they grinded this game. And, sometimes you have to do that. And that's a testament to how the Flames can win when they're not at their best offensively. And they win and get Richie McKay now tied on the all-time wins list as Liberty's men's basketball coach. He'll surely break it. It's just a matter of when, not if. Good Lord willing, he's coaching the next handful of games for Liberty. Your impressions on what that record means, and are we shocked that when Richie McKay was asked about it, he brought in everybody else and kind of deflected the attention from himself?
Yeah, that's par for the course with Coach McKay, and he's in year 12. Leading the Flames, and like you said, he tied Jeff Meyer for the most wins in program history, and one more he'll break that record. And he also has the best career winning percentage as a head coach for the Flames as well too. So, but I mean the list, it's a laundry list of accolades and things he's done for the Flames. Not just the 3 NCAA tournament appearances, the first and the only NCAA tournament win back in 2019 over Mississippi State, but also getting the team to the NIT, first time in program history, and now has helped guide them not just the ASUN, but now to Conference USA, one of the top mid-major leagues in all of college basketball, and more than that, the way he represents the university. I think Liberty Flames put out a video on what the school means to him and how he guides and leads his team. And they put that out today, so definitely a must-watch for Liberty fans. But he does it. It's a lot of winning, as we know in college athletics. It's all about winning, and he's done a lot of that. But he's also been able to lead this team in a way that makes all Liberty fans thankful that he's in charge of that team and that program. And also, of course, he couldn't do it without the players, right? You have to have players to win games, and he's had a lot of them. And you look at Lavelle Cabell and Georgie Pacheco-Ortiz, Scotty James, Caleb Holmesley, Darius McGee, Kyle Rode, the list goes on and on. And those are guys that should have, and I'm sure will have, their jerseys hanging in the rafters here at some point in time. And a lot of that is due to the work of Coach McKay.
John Manson does great work as well for us and for all the Liberty fans at aseaofred.com, A Sea of Red, and JC Manson on Twitter. John, good to speak with you as always. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, Ed, Trey, thank you guys for having me on.
And last but not least, or maybe least, those haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders.
I really was tempted to play the longer version of that, but alas, we just have to stick with the regular version of that glorious song as we welcome in Bowie TV Sports Madam President Candy Waller, who was on site, our boots on the ground in Detroit for that win against the Lions. Seawall, did you expect it to unfold the way it did? The Commanders dominating and thoroughly taking advantage of Jared Goff's gifts of interceptions.
No, the short answer. Now, I will say that is one of the things that I've been sharing, right? If the Commanders wanted to win that football game, that specific football game, the goal that they've had of 3 turnovers all year long, that they had not yet before that game had met that goal. I said they have to get these 3 turnovers, and the Commanders defense turned around and got 5. So no, I did not expect that at all.
Not very many people did, but yet the Commanders found a way to pull it out anyway with the victory in Detroit over the weekend. You mentioned the turnovers that Washington forced. Mikey Sanders still, as big of a game as you could expect coming back. How pleasantly surprised are the Commanders that the rookie made this big of an impact on that type of stage?
I don't think they're surprised at all. One thing that I've learned about Adam Peters working alongside Dan Quinn, they know exactly what the capabilities are of these men that they have drafted, the ones that they signed, and the ones that are still on the roster from the previous roster. They know exactly what they're capable of. And as you all know, Mikey Samerstill was a leader, captain on his Michigan football team. So we should have all kind of known what time it was with Mikey coming back into Michigan to perform at such a critical point in time. I think everyone was, just excited to see just that high level of football IQ that he has, and it was on full display Saturday night.
It was for the Washington Commanders, and Seawall was there, and now recapping it for us here in the Fast Lane on W227 BG Timberlake, WVGM AM Lynchburg, WMNA Gretna Southside, and everywhere you listen, like the VTRN Sports app and VTRN Sports on Facebook and YouTube. For those that want a picture of our glorious face, Trey and mine, not as glorious as Candy Waller, who was there in Detroit. Seawall, Jaden Daniels. I mean, so much has been said of what he's done to get the Commanders to this particular point. How ready is he, and how ready do you anticipate the Commanders to be going into a banged-up Philadelphia team, but one where the defense has carried the day, particularly with the Sam Cosmi injury?
I think that this team has been clear on their identity and who they are when it comes to that, right? They're going to stay poised, right? We've heard head coach Dan Quinn say you never get too high, you never get too low. But if we haven't learned anything about this team, we know that they are quietly confident, very, very confident. They are not afraid at all, and they are well prepared for the moment. So I am going to think with Trent Scott coming into the fold and showing that next man up mentality for Sam Cosmi and going to be on that line, they understand what's on this line. This is for the Super Bowl, and this is round 3 against the Philadelphia Eagles. So I think that this team knows exactly what they're up against. They know that they are beyond anything still the underdog. And one thing that even Terry McLaurin and many other players have said is that Jaden's attitude toward games, it transcends across all of them. He believes that he is the best player on the field. And each one of them believe that they too are the best players on the field. Therefore, they're the best team on the field. That's their mentality. That's how they approach it. And we're going to see them do that again on Sunday.
Hard to argue with that. Now we'll see what happens when Sunday rolls around. And somebody who's been there the entire way, covering the Commanders, our boots on the ground for Bowie TV Sports, and for us here in the Fast Lane, Seawall, Candy Waller. Seawall, good to be speaking with you. Thank you for your time as always. And we'll serenade you out with the same intro we did earlier, which is...
I'm sorry.
Trey, just be glad I didn't play the long version. Seawall, we hope you have your left hand out of Philadelphia, but maybe not too high given the way those fans can behave.
Absolutely. Look, thank you all so much for having me, and I'll be talking to you guys again soon.
Oh, indeed. Seawall with us here in the Fast Lane to wrap it up today. Trey, be careful. I'm really tempted to play the long version of that song. So if you're not careful, I'll do it the next time. But I'm going to hold off.
I mean,
right
it is
now.
a banger. I'll give it credit.
It is the old Hail to their former name redacted song is not as good as our song or the song from OG and Big 57 or whatever the name is. OG Goody and Big 57, whatever. This song.
Those haters can't stand us. Left hand up. Who are we? The Commanders.
And the fact that they had the idea that somehow the celebration is just putting your left hand up in the air is all the better given how ridiculous it is.
I will say this. The funny part is if they do win the Super Bowl, if any chance of them changing the name is now gone. Like, right? You can't. You can't. You can't. If you win, I think if they lose in the NFC Championship game, you can change it. But like, because that has been rumored, right? With the new owners that they're thinking about changing the name to whatever, because they don't like commit. Because Dan Snyder decided to pick the worst name possible as a last hoorah as his ownership group. So if they win the Super Bowl, they can't change the name, which also is funny.
No way can they
objectively
change that
is funny.
No way. I mean, they have to do that. So. It is a must.
Just go back to football team.
It is. In the meantime, we appreciate your time here in the Fast Lane. We're back tomorrow, 5 to 6 p.m. VTR and Sports App 93.3 FM.
and your willingness, or I should say lack of desire, to go out there and have to prove yourself in those circumstances.